so much talent in Toronto. Like from a music perspective, we own the last decade. The amount of creator talent coming out is ridiculous. Writers, like the South Asian community out of Brampton, like the poetry and the spoken word and the fine art is absurd. But it feels like everyone's just like hiding in their own pocket and no one comes out to play. And there's just like no one bringing people together. Like what is it about Toronto?
So I agree and disagree. So like I love Toronto and I feel like the reason why I was able to do what I do today and a lot of I owe a lot of my success to the fact that I came up in Toronto during an era where a lot of other people who are very successful now from Toronto also came up, where you just kind of had to hustle and grind and everyone was hustling and grinding. A lot of my, friends worked at nightclubs or in that scene and that where, but it was literally the era before social media, before Instagram, before any of that. And you just literally just had to grind and have real connections and real friendships and real people had to really genuinely like you. And you had to, just I don't know. I think that I'm happy that I came from that era, but the Toronto of today, I find myself just not really going out in a ton of social settings. Like when I'm in the city, I find I go out more when I'm in LA or in New York or in another city. So I feel like people have seen people who have been really successful, whether it's Drake or The Weeknd or whatever, Justin Bieber or just other people I don't know, Elon Musk, who come from Ontario or from a similar background as us, oftentimes went to the same schools as us or lived in the same neighborhoods as us. They kind of had to go to the States and get legit and get their street cred there. And then they came back. And then Toronto's oh my God, you're amazing. But at that point, I'm just I was always amazing. Why didn't you give my credit when it was due kind of thing? So that's kind of what I think were my challenges with Toronto is don't get me wrong. I love Toronto. I will scream and shout Toronto from the rooftops and the mountaintops. And I get so much love from Torontonians, so much support from Torontonians. But I had to leave and build a business that is, for the most part, for all intents and purposes, American to get and to enjoy the success that I have today, because I just wouldn't be able to do it in the same way in Toronto for a number of reasons. Now we are breaking back into the Canadian market and we're having and experiencing a lot of success in the Canadian market and in the Toronto market. But for me, what worked best for me was to do it in the reverse. So I think that leads to a little bit of maybe an absence of community in some spaces because you have to leave and go to New York and LA or Miami or even Europe to get that street cred and that success. But one thing I will say is Torontonians, we find each other in different cities. We were literally in Paris the other day and or a few months ago, and we were at the Buy Redo launch. And I think the guy is a Torontonian who did that, and his story was similar, how he left and he created this amazing brand. Torontonians really look out for each other. When we see each other, I met the founder of NYX makeup in Miami at Art Basel, and we connected over the fact that we were both Canadian girls and from Toronto, and we just did a live together last week. But we don't have those same opportunities sometimes happening in Toronto. But I could be don't take my word for it, because my life is so crazy when I'm not in the city that when I come back to Toronto, that it's just sort of my oasis where I just chill and relax, and I don't really go out a ton, because when I do have to leave for work, I'm on go constantly.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. It's so wild to see a city that has one of the greatest, most prestigious film festivals in the world. We have great sports teams, amazing cuisine, amazing culture, amazing arts, entertainment. Yet there's still the need to be oh, let's get validation. We need that credibility elsewhere, and then we got to bring it back. And so it's something I've always been so interested in because it feels like an opportunity. but I definitely hear what you're saying. But let me go back to, something you're talking about, building your business. I was listening to you on a podcast, I think maybe it was a year or so ago, and someone asked you, hey, how do you help your creators know what they should continuously create content around? And you got a great question. You said you have to know what your friends come to you for. So I want to ask you this. What do your friends come to you for?
Good question. When they want to become a creator, when they want to like do something on social media, I'm definitely like the go-to girl for that. Tend to have a disproportionate number of people as friends that happen to also be influencers. So they come to me with like pricing questions, brand questions. They looking for a contact or a link, a plug somehow within the creator space. So I'm definitely like the girl, and I don't gatekeep. And people know that about me. So whenever they're looking for like an Instagram or influencer plug, people come to me, and not just like my friends that are creators. I also have a lot of like, or not a lot, but I have some friends that also are agency owners or like entrepreneurs in this space. So like we come to each other and lean on each other for opportunities and ideas and contacts and just to run things by each other. So yeah.
Have you always been someone that's enjoyed helping others get to greater places in their career?
Yes.
So if you look back on your career, is there a moment where you can say, oh yeah, doing X in the past really relates to what you're doing right now and is almost like foreshadowing what you're doing today?
Yeah. So when I was in my early 20s, it was all about like, oh my God, what are you going to do? Like, you graduated from university. Like, what's next? Like, what are you good at? And I remember like writing down an exercise or like doing this thing where I was like, I just really like helping other women. I just really like helping people. But then I remember at the same time thinking, there's no way you're going to make money doing that. Like, there is no way you're going to be able to make money doing that. So I had a degree in finance and I ended up working in finance and at a consulting firm. And it sucked the life out of me. So this was in the early 2000s. So at the time, it was like sort of like the advent of like the blogging era and like the blog spot era. So I started a blog, and I called it What Women Want. And I just started like writing posts about things that women want and the things that women like. And it was essentially just like, me sharing the things that I loved. And then I turned it into an event and I sold sponsorships to that event. And this was like my side hustle while I had my corporate job. And that kind of is like led to and has foreshadowed everything that I did today, like from a social media perspective, from helping women and connecting women with opportunities and other people to today. Fast forward, 15 years later, I was working in advertising at Rogers Media and was working on like a multi-million-dollar block of business. I was seeing how the industry was becoming very digital and then very social. But I saw that there was like a knowledge gap part of influencers, particularly Black influencers, when it came to pricing themselves for opportunities. Then I also saw that there was a bias gap on the marketing and the agency side and the decision-making side. Most of the people that were in making decisions were white people. They were not people that looked like me, and they were very rarely people of color. So as a result of that, a lot of Black people and people of color were left out of those opportunities because of just like the natural biases that exist. People, put people forward for opportunities that they follow, that they can relate to, that, their friends follow and that their friends relate to. And if you are living a life where the people around you are homogenous, then that is going to be reflected in your work. That's going to be reflected in the types of things that your company does, et cetera. So I made it my mission to close that gap. But yeah, everything that I like did. So with What Women Want, that was all about helping women and amplifying and, just helping them get to the top of their game. And then prior to starting Kensington Gray, when I was working at Rogers Media, I started a Facebook for Black creators called the Glow Up, where we just like helped each other and like just shared information on like who pays well, who, is a context for what campaign, how do you price usage, how do you price exclusivity, like how do you do this, how do you do that? So that was like a private forum where we just shared content, and there was like over 400 influencers in that, Black influencers. And then that was initially just like a passion project. I wasn't looking to like make money off of it, but people kept coming to me saying, hey, can you manage me? You just helped me like close like a $30,000 deal for myself. And then after like the fourth or fifth person asked me, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. So I did. And And then the rest is history. Kensington Gray started with my husband and I in our kitchen. We were managing like maybe 10 creators between the two of us. And, fast forward 3.5 years later, we have 70 creators on our roster and we have a team of 25 people. And we are like really showing any signs of slowing down. We like to say we're in our growth era. And yeah, it's just really exciting.
Something I'm picking up, and I picked this up when I was doing research for this, but even just hearing this short synopsis right now, you have a bias towards action. Hey, like it's like you have an idea, there's something you want to do, and you just go do it with the blog or the Facebook group or changing in your career, going through finance, wanting to go into advertising, seeing that traditional TV or magazines weren't where the industry was going. All right, taking action and changing, and then starting your agency. What leads to a bias towards action? What do you think it that is that fire inside of you that continues to get you thinking, I want to do something more, and then going out and doing it?
Yeah. I think it's like the way that I was raised. I think it's like my pedigree. And I think it's just like the way Black people have been conditioned. A lot of us come from circumstances or situations or our history. If you look at us as slaves and then the Jim Crow era and now to where we are today, we would still or could still be in similar circumstances to that had we not fought to be where we are today. And had we not opened our mouths and said something about it, had we not questioned authority, had we not, took action. So I was just always taught from a very, very, very young age to speak up about things, to share my opinion, to build community. Both of my parents were entrepreneurs. My dad was an architect. My mom was also is a business owner. She has a Jamaican restaurant where a lot of community was built around that. We're based in Calgary, which is a predominantly white city. That's where I grew up. But we had this Jamaican restaurant. So like we knew all the, the Black people and, on all the Black kids. And that's how I kind of like built a community and sense of identity and built my confidence as a young Black girl who was typically othered and typically the only person in my classroom or even sometimes at my school that looked like me outside of my family. So, and then my parents who both grew up in Jamaica, but Jamaica's different than the United States in that we were, Jamaica was under British rule and slavery and things like that had been abolished centuries ago in Jamaica. So my parents came from upper class, middle class communities where everyone was successful. All of the Black people around them were successful. And coming to Canada was really the first time that they had ever experienced, racism or being treated differently. So they just really instilled in us the importance of who we are and that we were valuable, that we could do and be anything that we ever set our minds to do and be. But at the same time that we're going to have to work really, really hard for it because there's some people who might not want that for you or see you in the same way that we see you. And to just always speak up and just to let people know that we're not the one or the two and that anything you set your mind to, that you'll be able to accomplish. So that was just something that was instilled in us from a very young age. And it's how I raised my daughter to this day.
Talk to me a little bit about community. You say that's so cool that your mom ran a restaurant back in Calgary, and you said like you fostered such community around there. What goes into building a great community?
I think that like creating a safe place is really important. So when we created the Facebook group, the Glow Up, which was a place for creators, they oftentimes they can view other creators as their competition. And then with Black creators, where there weren't too many of us when we first started this group back in 2017, you can get into that scarcity mentality. Or if, you're in a place like Calgary where there aren't a ton of Black people, most everyone is white or just not Black, you can get into assimilation mode where you're like, no, let's just try to assimilate and not stand out too much and draw too much attention to ourselves. People can like fall into those types of, that frame of thought as a self-preservation mechanism. So I think that the importance of creating a space where you can feel safe being who you are, safe, for example, in the Facebook group, sharing confidential information or sharing how much you make, sharing knowledge that could be life-changing. Like that's also important to make sure that people feel safe. And then not judging, not being judgmental, letting people show up unapologetically as who they are because, communities are created because outside of that community, oftentimes people lack relatability with, the people that are outside of the community. So you need to be able to feel like you can relate to others, you'll be accepted, you're not going to be othered again, and you'll feel safe. So I think safety is like one of the biggest keys to community for sure.
So cool that there's that through line. There's your mom building community with the restaurant, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And then you see the different pockets, your blog, the Facebook group, and then now helping other people, i.e. creators and influencers, build community on their own. It's a cool little throughput you see through your career. Talk to me about Kensington Gray and what Kensington Gray offers Black creators and influencers today to that point of community that we were speaking about before, feeling safe and being able to really share your voice and get out there and prosper.
So I think the community is actually our superpower at Kensington Gray. I think it's what differentiates us from other agencies, and not just other agencies in general, but other, Black-owned agencies. Because there's a lot of other Black-owned agencies and agencies that focus on BIPOC creators or Black creators in particular. But like the community that we've created or that we create through our agency is extremely important. So when opportunities like going to Fashion Week in Paris or going to New York Fashion Week or going to Essence Fest come about, it's not just like one or two creators going and creating content separately and like maybe just, being passing ships in the wind at different events. It's like, no, it's going to be like 15 of us. We're all from Kensington Gray. We're going to show up. We're going to show out. We literally roll like 20, 30 deep. Like we were like 25 people deep at Art Basel in December and like 30 people deep at New York Fashion Week. We have like a group of like 6 girls that are in Paris right now. We just had a group of 8 girls at Disney World, and they are all Kensington Gray girls. We believe that, and this is, I think, is informed from me having the experience of also being a creator myself, because I started off as a creator. It's a very isolating experience at times. You're going to these events and like everyone like, is taking photos and like no one's really talking to you. And like, unless you're like really big, like it can be very isolating and could be intimidating and not fun at all. And so we eliminate that and take that out of the game from like day one. So whenever there's like events, we make sure like we invite all of our roster that's in that city. And then we will then take the next step and we'll start a group chat for everyone that's going to that event so that they all connect with each other and be like, what are you guys wearing? Like, when are you guys going? Like, when are you like, let's meet. Like, I just got here. Like, where is everybody? Like, so like we genuinely build friendships and like little sub communities within our roster so that they're experiencing this in like as a group and they're not experiencing it alone. And I think that there's just like power and a bit of virality that comes from that community. So like our girls that were just at Disney, they created all of these videos while they were there on TikTok and on Instagram, and like 3 or 4 of them have gone viral. Like one of them has like 6 million views or something like that. And it's like when you're a Black girl at Disney. And it's just like this like really, beautiful video of like somebody walking by one of our creators and saying like how beautiful she is. And just like stuff like that, like just ensuring that you're not going to be going through this by yourself and taking specific steps to connect people and foster collaboration so that from that, synergy is created and energy is created and genuine friendships are forged, and that this is no longer a solo and intimidating experience. Yeah. So I think that that's how we've kind of fostered community, and we drive that with the brands. We always try to bring additional girls onto campaigns, to opportunities, to events, so that they can like really make a bang when they show up together.
Yeah, the thing that you said earlier, which I think plays into this so well, is the idea that you you have empathy on both sides, on the business side as an entrepreneur, but also as a creator. And I can imagine what that does for the creators that sign with and the creators that are part of Kensington Gray. What do you think it's given you having both sides? Or like what's the advantage that you think you bring forth having both sides and having the empathy to be able to relate on both elements?
Yeah, so having that like sort of like, yeah, the multi-hyphenate approach. So I've been on the brand side, where we were paying creators and representing the brands. I've been a creator myself, and then now I'm a talent manager. I think that it allows me to be able to put myself in everyone's shoes. So like I understand like a brand has a goal, that a brand has a budget they need to meet, they have keep KPIs that they need to meet, they have people internally that they need to look good to and answer to. But then there's creators who like life happens and like they need freedom and autonomy. They need to feel like they are valued. They need to feel like they have an agent that is advocating on their behalf and not just like bending over to like whatever client is asking for. So finding a balance there and even just in the method of how you communicate things in between the two is always informed by that, the experience I have being on both sides. And yeah, like the community aspect that Kensington Gray has created stems from the fact that I did feel like the influencer experience was very individual, solo, and like I felt very a lot of the time, and felt intimidated a lot of the time. So I wanted to make sure that I created situations where I was able to eliminate that. And then when working with brands, I wanted to make sure that if I were ever represented, I would want a manager that would like negotiate really, really hard and not leave a dime on the table for me, would advocate for me and push back on things when they felt like the client or the agency was, taking advantage. But at the same time, as a client, I would like working with an agency that's flexible, that is understanding, that's respectful of timelines, that over communicates, that, compromises. So we kind of do a little bit of both to try to make everyone happy, but also to educating. So we educate clients like, hey, so this is like, let's put ourselves in the creator's shoe for a moment. Like when you're asking for, 6 revisions to a video that, they spent, an entire day creating, like that can suck the life out of like the enjoyment of the process or suck the enjoyment out of the process. And then, on the flip side, to the creator, we explain to them like, okay, this is the reason why this element of your content has to be changed or has to be updated. There's legal reasons behind it, or there are things beyond a client's control. And that's the reason why like they're being sticklers about this particular revision or this particular ask. We help them understand each other better because I've been on both sides before.
Yeah. Is there, to a point you just said, is there ever value in bringing the creator into the negotiations? Or is it important that there's separation?
So it's bespoke at Kensington Gray. If you want to be copied on everything and we want to see like how we're negotiating and advocating on your behalf. You want to see what we're saying, how deep we're going in, that's fine. As long as they let us do our thing and they're not like jumping in and interjecting themselves into the negotiation and speaking over us and undermining us, like they can see it. So including them is totally fine. Like transparency, I think is really important. And that's one of our pillars for sure. So one of the benefits of that is that it creates trust because when you do a really good job at negotiating, your creator really starts to believe in you. And I usually find that when we start including our creators in the negotiation, like when they're copied, after a few months, they're like, you're good. Like, you guys are doing such a good job. Like, you can remove me from the correspondence because I know you have my back. But then there can be, situations where including the creator can be problematic because they try to jump in or they question, everything that you're doing, or you kind of feel like the client can't say certain things that they want to say because the creator's on the thread, or vice versa. You can't say certain things that you want to say to the client because the creator's also on the thread. Not that you'd be like throwing them under the bus or anything like that, but there's the certain things that, you need to communicate to clients to ensure that they completely understand, where your creator's coming from, etc. But I think that there's pros and cons, but I'm down for whatever the creator wants, whatever makes them feel most comfortable. Because if you shut them out completely and don't allow them in, then that's going to create like a lack of trust.
Yeah, I've heard both sides. I've heard some people say there is absolutely no way they're including the creators. And then I've heard others, to your point, that will say transparency is important because there's probably the period of transparency, which then leads to pure trust, and then they don't have to be involved. I was listening to a podcast that you were on, I think it was a couple of years ago, and you brought up this term, diversity clout. Talk to me about what diversity clout is, and then what needs to change for brands to get away from diversity clout.
Well, like diversity cloud is kind of like a synonym for being performative. It's like you're not really like doing what you're doing because you actually like care about the Black community. It's like you're doing what you're doing because you want diversity clout. You want to say that you did, you ticked the box. And so I think that, yeah, there's definitely a lot of that happens for sure. And the way that you change that is, just literally, honestly, taking a hard look in the mirror. And as an organization, like asking yourself, does the way that my organization looks on the inside, is that truly reflective of what the world is on the outside? Does do my day-to-day actions as a company, are they truly reflective of diversity? And is it because I truly believe in the power and the value of diversity? Or is this because it's like, I have to do this now because if I don't, I might get canceled? So you have to just genuinely like look at those things. Like, and I promise you, like, I'm not throwing shade, but, I get asked to do a lot of these things during Black History Month. And it's like, where were you? Where are you? March, April, May, June, July, August, September. Like, there are 12 months in the year. Like, why am I being asked to do all these podcasts in February? And this is a thing. At the same time, Black History Month is a time when you should be amplifying Black voices. And that's where, our allies reach out to us, year round. And this is the thing. Hashtag paid. We do a lot with them year round. They've reached out to us and like they've worked with us and on a ton of different things. Pandora, for example, is a client of ours where we hear from them, do things with them literally like almost every day of the week, let alone every month of the year. And so they reached out to me and asked me to do some stuff for Black History Month. So that's not performative. That's just really demonstrating your allyship and really taking advantage of months like Black History Month or whatever, International Women's Day or International Women's Month or whatever, to really amplify voices that you support already throughout the year. But, there are some things that I definitely like will say no to because I'm like, I have not heard from you for 11 months. Do not try and come knocking on my door on February 1st asking for me to do something for you. It's not genuine. It's not authentic. And yeah, so the way that you avoid, just doing things for diversity clout is just to like literally just not do things for diversity clout. And deep down inside, when you're doing something for diversity clout, the people who are the culprits, they know who they are.
So what needs to be there's the brand side, and they have to get over the idea of diversity clout and just see creators as creators and use them throughout the year. And I definitely hear what you're saying there. What do you, because as someone who focuses on amplifying and uplifting Black creators and Black influencers to Kensington Gray, what are the things that you found to be most powerful, whether it's in negotiations with brands for your clients and or just supporting your clients in the world of brands and brand partnerships to try to get to this like, level of parity so that there isn't diversity clout and it feels quite regular?
So I think like simply existing is the most powerful. Like, so what I mean by that is like, we're just existing every day and being examples of success every single day. And we're working with brands every single day. And that is like the biggest form of advocacy, is just like literally just existing as a successful Black owned business, as a successful Black run agency and an agency that's focused on Black creators and then working with and forging relationships with clients that are also Black-owned businesses and or not, like every single day throughout the year consistently. So I hope that answers your question.
That definitely makes sense. And, it goes to something that I heard you say in a podcast that I was listening to. And you said that a lot of the Black creators that you represent have great teams around them. And because of these great teams, they're actually able to get more money than just the average creator, regardless of the creator's background and size. To me, that was super interesting. So tell me a little bit more about what goes into these teams. What's so important? What are the important facets of these teams to make sure that creators can be on a solid platform so they are getting back, they are getting their worth?
So I think there's a lot of like creators that think that like, or that want to do it all. Like, I want to do everything. Like, I want to be the photographer, the editor, the stylist, the person who creates the concepts and the this and the that. And there is some value with you having your hands in every single aspect of the process. But I think that the most successful creators are the ones that start to delegate and building a team. So like, okay, you're going to be responsible for like my social media management and my concept creation, and like helping to like develop my editorial calendar. You're going to like be responsible for like my negotiation and pitching me for opportunities. And like, you're going to be responsible for ideating and brainstorming and this, that, and the other thing. And then you're going to be responsible for like the physical stuff, the returns and like the photo shoots. And once they start compartmentalizing all the different jobs that go into one to make a creator, then they can just focus solely on creating. And growth will come from that. Opportunity will come from that. More money comes from that. And it almost becomes like a snowball effect and a bit of like an exponential effect where you end up being bigger and better and doing more because you've taken a lot of like the administrative stuff that can like bog you down off of your plate. So you can just focus on being you and expanding and growing. And then you have people working behind the scenes to ensure that everyone that needs to see it or should see it, sees it so that you can benefit from that and come up off of that.
And so Kensington Gray's full service, it's 360 for the creators. So are you and your team helping each creator that's on the roster build out these teams and advise them how to hire and how to find the right people?
We do. Yeah, we definitely do that. So we help you with strategy. We'll help you find an assistant. We help like with consulting. So we help with like the PR aspect of things like we do. And we have solutions for across the board. And then if we don't have a solution internally, we'll send you in the right direction or connect you with the person who we think can or should do that.
It almost feels like helping creators hire is this next step, because if they can hire great teams and give them great people, then to your point, they can sit inside their pocket. And it seems like that's something that you and your team do really well.
Yeah, for sure. Like helping you build out a team I think is crucial, especially once you get to a point, like once you get to a certain point, not everyone is ready for that. Some people are smaller and can still do a lot of things like their own and in-house. But once you get to a certain size where it's just like it's starting to feel overwhelming doing everything, it's time. And we have definitely helped people do that in the past.
And so talk to me about the thesis, how you find creators, what you're looking for. Because I was looking at the roster and you got some incredible celebrities, and then you also have some smaller creators that are underrated that are on the rise. What's the throughput? What are you and your team looking for that's like the Kensington Gray criteria in creators?
Definitely an X factor. So there's got to be something about you that is just sets you apart from like the pack. Something about you that people just can't get anywhere else. Like we represent the notorious Kia. And she is like this New York, no nonsense fashion girl slash sneakerhead slash designer slash Afro wearing, unapologetic New Yorker, just badass chick. Like literally, if you want to book her for a campaign and she says no, where else are you going to find somebody like her? Like nowhere. It's like impossible. We have Gloria, who's this beautiful Sudanese dark mahogany skin content creator who just talks about shade diversity, but will make you laugh at the same time and has like the superior knowledge of makeup application and formulation and speaks in such almost scientific way about beauty, but like is entertaining at the same time. There's just not another girl out there that's like her. And I can like go down the list of our creators and find that unique quality about them. Like Karen, who's like this British girl who lives in New York and has just got this like effortless, cool, vintage vibe about her, but yet she's luxury at the same time. She makes his menswear and women's wear, and she's just super just down to earth and approachable, but super elevated and like luxury of this. Like there's no one else that's like her, period. So like we just try to like find people that have that just like unique quality about them that's kind of irreplaceable, because that half the job of our job is done, because you're going to have people coming to your creators because they are that unique thing, and there's really only one person out there that has that. Another thing is personality. The days of just having like a really cute feed and like looking cute and whatnot and like being all aesthetic, like those days are over. That you getting by on that, like you need to get on camera, you need to talk, I need to hear what you have to say, you need to get me excited and engaged and grab my attention and keep it to a point where I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to be talking about next. We also look for month over month growth. So if you're growing consistently month over month, we're not worried about what your follow account is, because whatever our minimum follow account might be, or whatever a brand's minimum follow account might be, we know you're going to hit it because every month you're consistently growing. And we can oftentimes project when you're going to hit that based on how the velocity in which you're growing. We also will look at engagement. And even engagement, we're willing to be flexible on, because that can change. Like you can have low engagement because you're doing all the wrong things, but then we can have a sit down with you and we can say, hey, stop doing this, stop doing this. You should do more of this. You should do more of that. And then all of a sudden you increase and you completely change your engagement around. So we're even willing to make exceptions on engagement, but month over month growth is important. Consistent month over month growth, having an X factor. And I can't tell you what it is because I just know it as soon as I see it. And then having personality and also too, I should be able to look at your content and see that you understand how to create brand friendly content.
Okay, talk to me about that. Explain brand friendly content for creators who don't have management that are listening to this, that are thinking about it. This seems to be something that's come up a bunch when I'm talking to managers and agents. Explain brand friendly content and how you help creators approach brand friendly content.
It just looks like it could be an ad. Like it looks like not, and this is like not in like a super highly produced, perfect, airbrushed, high quality DSLR camera type of way, but just like you are speaking clearly with authority. Your content is crisp and clear, and the lighting looks great, and it's like it just looks just super fresh and like kind of like clean. You're not like dropping F-bombs in every other sentence on your content. And don't get me wrong, like we have a lot of creators that swear like all the time, and that's okay. Just like not when you're like, working with a brand, but like just like I don't really know how to describe brand friendly content in like a prescriptive way, but I know it when I see it. You see it and you're like, oh, okay, that could be an ad. Like I could see a brand reposting that on their channel. And then consistently seeing that over and over again on somebody's feed, then it just creates like a page where it's like, oh my God, yeah, that's brand friendly content. And having a page where it is where a brand can intuitively see themselves in your content without having to get you to change too many things.
I like that a lot. That's a cool way of framing it. How do you help brands see themselves in your content? How did you come up with that?
I don't know. I just came up with it. We say that a lot to our creators though. Like a brand needs to be able to see themselves in your content already. Like, cause you know why? Probably Because we have like some girls on our roster that do a bunch of home decor and they're like, well, I want to start doing fashion. Or they do a bunch of like beauty content. They're like, well, I want to start doing home decor or whatever, or vice versa. And it's like, okay, so start creating home decor content. Cause like if you want us to pitch you to IKEA in West Elm and like all you have are beauty tutorials all over your page, like they're not going to be able to see themselves in your content. You need to take this step, take the plunge and start creating that content organically first. And then they'll be able to see themselves in your content and it will be a much easier sell when we go to pitch you. So yeah, so that's where it came from, I guess.
I like that a lot. Like it's almost like the idea of it having the intention towards what you want. And then the idea of adding value. And I've heard you talk about adding value a lot. And so this might seem a surface level question, but what does it mean to bring value to an audience?
Well, the content that you are creating genuinely needs to make their lives better in some way, shape, or form, or they're learning something. So, even if it's just like a get ready with me, like, oh my God, get ready with me is like as I go to, I don't know, my boyfriend's house or whatever, and you're like putting on your makeup and like you're telling people what products you're using. You're like, this concealer is like my holy grail. Like I've gone through it like forever. Love Rare Beauty blush because it just gives me this like glow and like my go-to lip gloss. Like as you're talking about the fact that you're going to your boyfriend's house and you're like, oh yeah, we broke up last year and we got back together. Like I'm gonna wear this. Like, do you think this is cute? Like, oh, and by the way, this lip gloss is bomb. I love it so much. Like just like naturally integrating and like giving tips, not gatekeeping. So that like when they come to your page, they're learning something, they're finding something that, that they can buy or that you're putting them on to something that's going to make their life easier or make their life better, but in a way that doesn't feel super salesy or like forced, but it feels like you're talking to a friend and you're getting like a genuine, like real life word of mouth recommendation.
Cool. So it seems like it's more so from the educational side. Like I'm coming to your page and I'm getting something in return. As a talent manager, how do you see creators that are creating purely around entertainment? Like there's not that tangible value of, oh, I'm going to come and I'm going to learn something and I'm going to take something away. How do you view entertainment creators in the grand scheme of, let's call it this idea of valuable content?
Yeah. Well, that's a form of value. So people value being able to laugh, coming, like knowing that, like, I know when I go to certain person's page, I'm going to laugh. Like, I'm going to get a good laugh or I'm going to be inspired in some way. It doesn't have to necessarily be like a tangible tip or product for them to go out and buy. Like, you're bringing value to somebody's life by making them smile or making them laugh or inspiring them or giving them like a feel good moment. So that can be just, like seeing them with their kids and seeing their kids get along and hug each other. Or yeah, giving them a story time that's super entertaining and it's super relatable and like and makes you laugh and then you want to go and tell your friend about it or you share it with your friends so that they laugh about it too. That's a form of providing value too. I follow a lot of like the real estate accounts, like where they show these like like $1 million homes that I could never afford. But I love seeing like how all these rich people are like living and have like bidets and like, infinity pools and like all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, one day maybe that will be me. That's value to me. It's, gives me like it's a little pocket of peace where I can just like dream a little bit.
Cool. So all the human characteristics, it's like belonging or fulfillment or safety. All right. Well, we are more or less at the end, but what I've offered creators in our network the opportunity is just to ask a couple questions or give me a couple questions that I can ask people like yourself who are just at the top of the space and have all of the knowledge. And so 2 questions that have come from creators when I told creators in our network that you were coming on. One is, what makes a deal worthwhile? A brand deal worthwhile?
So I would say is when it's like mutually beneficial. So when the brand is gaining from aligning themselves with you, whether it's gaining access to your audience or just gaining like an endorsement, like an implied endorsement from you. And then also too, where you are getting something out of it. So either that could be just you're being compensated very well financially, or that brand alignment, it helps you to elevate you or your brand in a way. Like we have a creator who worked with Louis Vuitton last year, and it was a compensated opportunity. But like, hello, like LV wants to work with me. Like, tell me what I need to do and where I need to go. Like, I'm going to be there ASAP. And that was great for her brand. It's elevated her brand, and as a result of that, a number of other brands are willing to work with her and pay as a result of that. So it just definitely has to be mutually beneficial.
And the last thing is someone asked this question, and I'm very interested to hear your answer. It's how does management differ when working with creators versus working with celebrities? Because I know you guys do both at Kensington Gray.
So like the traditional celebrity, we've kind of moved away from that, but we do work with some creators who are kind of like are would be considered, public figures and celebrities for sure. So creators that do this full time and for a living, they have cultivated and worked hard to like earn every single follower that they have. And they've built this community from the ground up. Whereas celebrities haven't necessarily done it in the same way. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure that you've worked really, really hard to like get those films or those television opportunities, or you build your music career up to where you become like, a household name or considered a celebrity. But a lot of times people are there. Like, so for example, we've worked with some reality television stars that are on really popular reality TV shows. And the reason why people are following them is because they're fans of the show. They're also fans of you, but like you kind of like have gained this huge following overnight because of the success of the show. So you haven't kind of like put in the time and paid your dues and learned how to like create branded content in the same way that somebody who has 1 million followers, because they've literally earned every single follower that they have at every step of the way. So career creators, we enjoy working with just because they understand the business side a little bit more. Whereas celebrities, they do understand the business side, but the creating branded content thing doesn't come as naturally to them, because the people that are there because they're fans of the show, not because of like all of this content you've created and cultivated and curated over all of these years to get to where you are. And there are a few people who are able to do a little bit of both. So I would say the Kardashians are a great example of that, who have success and notoriety because of their show, but they've also been on social media every step of the way and cultivated and created an audience along with that. And so they know how to do both, but not everyone knows how to do both. So I would say, is a difference.
I like that a lot. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure getting to hear your perspective and how you view the space and what goes into being a unique creator and why that uniqueness is important and why that uniqueness honestly is very important, getting away from diversity clout and how you're supporting those creators and what that looks like in the future. So thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being candid. Thank you for being open with all these questions. And I am excited to put this out.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.